Next, we're going to talk about Central District's polity. Central District was a 1957 merger of two conferences which were part of the General Conference Mennonite Church and overlapped geographically. The Middle District was primarily from early 19th century migrations. It had a strong Swiss influence, and it was congregational in its polity. The Central Conference came out of the Amish migrations of the middle 19th century, and it was very congregational. And also the Central Conference was impacted by the experience of Joseph Stuckey, its founder. Joseph Stuckey was an Amish bishop who at one point was pressed by his fellow bishops to discipline a member of his congregation who had written a poem that expressed universalist ideas. And when Father Stuckey, as he was known, refused to excommunicate the man, the bishops put him out of fellowship. And so his group of Amish churches became a separate group, known as the Stuckey Amish, and eventually they became the Central Conference. And this story has been an important background for Central District, and it has shaped the way the Central District has functioned. This sense that we are hesitant to put people out of fellowship because we want to keep the conversation going with those with whom we disagree. In 1999, Central District Conference wrote a document that explained our polity to our sister conferences with whom we were considering a merger at that time. That polity document is available on the Central District website, and it's also in the annual report book. In the polity, we used the metaphor of a family of adult children. We said that we are congregations with a common heritage and mission, but we do not control one another, just as adult siblings would not control one another. Conference, we said, is a place for fellowship, discussion, mutual accountability, relationships, working together, and sharing of resources. We said conference is congregations working together. It is not a separate body over the congregations. So Central District Conference is then characterized by voluntary relationships and a giving and receiving of counsel. Discipline is understood as discipling. It's discernment. It is sharing of resources. It's not understood as sanctions. Sanctions, we believe, are the function only of congregations. Excuse me. There is one exception to this. The ministerial committee of our conference grants the credentials of pastors in the conference and does have the authority to remove those credentials. Historically, we believe that that has only happened in cases of pastoral misconduct, of crossing boundaries related to behavior of the pastor, for example, sexual abuse of people within the congregation. There has been a reluctance to discipline pastors for what they teach. Back when the first Gulf War started, there was a pastor within Central District Conference who supported the war. And there were some people in the conference who really wished that the conference could come in and remove him from his position because he was not supporting the teaching of the Mennonite Church about peace. But because of our polity, that did not happen in that kind of a controlling manner. Instead, the conference minister had many conversations with this pastor, trying to help him understand the importance of the peace position and the impact of what his position was doing to the church. This is just one example of how our polity has shaped our interaction with pastors, that rather than a quick response that would discipline a pastor, there has been an approach that worked at discipling and an ongoing conversation. This is similar, I think, to how discipline happens within many congregations. It's usually a private function, it's not visible to everyone, and so there may be a sense of people on the outside wondering why nothing is happening, when in reality there is something happening, it's just not being done in a public way. I'd like you now to take some time and discuss with one another what are some of the strengths and challenges of the Central District Polity as I have explained it. And if you have the Polity document with you there, it would be helpful for you to be able to look at that and discuss it together. And also, how do we live this out? What does it mean to live out an ideal in which we are giving and receiving counsel to one another? It might help you to address the metaphor of a family of adult children. If you have siblings, how do you relate to each other, especially when you disagree about issues? So I invite you to pause or stop the DVD now and discuss this with your